What does death actually feel like? From a psychological perspective, this question carries the deep-rooted anxiety we all have about the end of our existence. However, the truth is, death might not even be a feeling at all. Feeling depends on the existence of consciousness, and death is precisely the end of that consciousness. When we imagine death, we often try to describe it using experiences from the living, like darkness, a white light, or a vast void. But the reality is that death is more like an absence, a total immersion, much like the state you were in before you were born. Back then, you had no thoughts, no perception, and no sense of self. It's the exact same after death. Consciousness dissolves as the body fades, and subjective time comes to a dead halt, making a single split second no different than billions of years. You won't see blackness or feel silence because you no longer exist. Even the boundaries of experience have vanished. People often fantasize about an afterlife, like heaven or hell, to give death a sense of continuity. However, the very concept of eternity actually contradicts the structure of human consciousness. If heaven were perfect and eternal, where every joy is at its peak with no more change or anticipation, then consciousness would fall into a state of stagnation. The human brain relies on contrast and difference to perceive the world. An unchanging, eternal perfection would be equivalent to sensory deprivation, eventually leading to boredom or apathy. If consciousness were modified just to maintain happiness, then that modified being is not your original self. It's just a machine carrying pleasure signals. Similarly, the eternal pain of hell would break down one's personality, reducing consciousness to pure reaction and losing the core of thought and self. Therefore, whether it's joy or sorrow, eternity defies the actual logic of life. Another common idea is reincarnation, thinking we can start over with a new identity. But this ignores a key factor, the continuity of consciousness. If the memories, personality, and experiences of the next life have no connection to this one, then that new life is an independent entity, not a continuation of you. Even if a carrier like a soul exists, once it enters a new body, it would adapt to the structure of a new brain. It's like electricity powering different appliances. There is no shared identity between the devices. Without a psychological inheritance of cause and effect, there's no transfer of the self. Therefore, the joys and sorrows of a next life have nothing to do with who you are right now. You don't need to be responsible for a future that doesn't exist, nor do you need to fear unfamiliar suffering. Facing the absolute nothingness of death, fear naturally arises. This anxiety is actually the living self worrying in vain for the non-existent self. As Epicurus said, when we exist, death is not yet here, and when death arrives, we no longer exist. So death has absolutely nothing to do with us. It's not an experience in life, but the end of experience. It's like the moment you wake up. You don't experience the dreamless state of deep sleep because you weren't there at the time. Death is the same. You will never experience life itself. Since death is inevitable, how should we face this ultimate fear? Perhaps the answer lies in shifting our focus away from the finish line and towards our current existence. The meaning of life isn't about its duration, but its depth and fullness. Death sets a frame around life, making the colors inside look precious. We don't need to stress over the void outside the frame. Instead, we should focus on how we paint the picture. Every moment of experience, thought, and emotion is unique, and they make up your story. Death isn't the erasure of that story, it's the completion of it. The world is different because you were here, and even if that impact is small, it is real. In the end, death can be seen as a return. Before you were born, you were a part of the natural universe, and after you die, you merge back into that vast order. This isn't disappearing, it's a transformation of form. You step down from the role of the observer and become the observed world itself. Life is like a finite journey, where the starting point and the destination are hidden in the unknown, but every step along the way deserves to be walked with a clear mind. By letting go of the obsession with eternity and accepting the gift of finitude, perhaps we can understand the true value of being alive more deeply.